put this video together because whenever you see movies or anime or whatever, you know, what makes, besides the history behind the katana, what makes it so iconic? You know, one of the things that makes it iconic, because whenever we see a katana in movies or anime or whatever, TV shows, it always looks like this. You know, the typical shinogi sakuri. All the time. You never ever see like an unukubi. And yeah, Samurai X, he has a sword with the edges on the backside, you know, on the mune or curvature. But it's still a shinogi sakuri. So the biggest question is, I presented, why is that? Why don't we even see a kugarasu, double-edged katana? It's always the shinogi. And part of the reason is the shinogi sakuri is the strongest blade shape for the katana. Yeah, all these other blades, except for one that I have here, are really good cutters. Okay. The unukubi is a really good cutter for trick cuts. The kugarasu is too. And the one that I don't have to show is the Hira Zakuri. But when it comes to actually performance, let's say on the battlefield, that is a lot different. Like the kugarasu, it's not really, you can use it on a battlefield, but is potentially going to be prone to bending or breaking. Okay. Same with the unukubi, which was derived from the naginata. Okay. Now the difference between a katana with an unukubi blade from a naginata is the naginata blades were a little bit wider. This isn't as wide, so that's why they withheld in battle. Whereas this is a little bit, you know, it's not as wide. Really isn't. Could you use it in a battle? Absolutely. You could. You could. But when it comes to the shinogi zakuri, it is a very strong shakusho blade. Can they still break? Absolutely. All swords break. But it's less prone to breaking than those other two because of its design. With that nice ridge line on the back side of it, it gives it that much more strength. Now, there are pros and cons to it though. With the ridge line back there, it creates a drag in your cut. So it slows the blade down. Even though you don't feel it, it slows it down. Whereas these other two have no drag because the backside has been thinned out. Except for one blade. That's just as strong as a shinogi, which is, oh, wrong one. that is the wrong one. That's the Unikubi, which is a Shobu. Now Shobus, I found out, they do not need that elongated tip on there. They can have the rounded tip just like this one is, or they can have the iris tip. Some Shobus have thicker blades, some have thinner blades. This one has a thinner profile blade. Now, here's where people get a Shobu wrong. They think because it's got the elongated tip on there, and no Yukoto line, because they don't, it's a Shobu. That's not true. A Shobu also has a shinogi line, a ridge line, but it's inverted upward. Now, they did that on purpose. The reason why they did that is because they realized that the shinogi had a drag. And when you're trying to cut through like leather armor or stuff like that, like the Mongols had, because these are really prolific during that time period, you really don't want to drag on your blade. You want to be able to just go right through wherever it is. So what they did was, with the Shobu, is they inverted it. And the only reason why they put an elongated tip is because if you were wearing some form of thick leather, it would pierce it better. But that's what they did. They took it, they inverted it upward, so basically top is like that. So your blade is basically shaped like this. Okay? Because you still have the structure here, but no drag. So that's what they did. They kind of combined, took the Shinogi Zakuri design and then just pushed inward on the ridgeline to create a stronger, more effective cutting blade. Now, the style of the Kugurasu was already around. Motohara, basically, is what they're also known as. They were around at the time, but the Shobus were kind of used way more. In fact, the Shobus were put on tachis during that Mongol invasion. So when it comes to blade profiles, which is the best, they're all good. The only one, personally, I would never get in a katana length, basically blade, is a Hira. I've done a lot of research on those and everything, and back in the day, the reason why they stopped making a Hira is because they were very problematic to forge into a blade length like this. They were prone to breaking, cracking, because there's literally not really any structure to the blade. Okay, so even, let's look at the Kugurasu. It's got a raised point in the center of the blade, so that can add structure to it. Even though it's a really thin profile there, it's still got a little bit of structure in the center to help it. Okay. A Hira basically looks like, well, if you've ever seen a splitting maul, it looks exactly like that. It just looks like an inverted pyramid. So when you have something like that, your breaking point is going to be right at the edge. So it looks like this. So it's going to be more prone to breaking, bending, and chipping out, because you don't have that structure in there. Not saying they're not good cutters. They're better used, from what I found out, if you have them made in a wakizashi or a tanto. Mainly nowadays, that's what you'll find them in, especially antique ones. You'll find them in wakizashis and tanto blades, because they're less prone to, while they're forging it, breaking and cracking. And second, you won't be using it that extensively like a full-length katana. So that's pretty much why we always see the Shinogi Zakuri. The Shinogi Zakuri is an iconic, basically, blade. They've made these since the Hanya period, this blade style. So they've been around for a very, very long time. And the reason being is they're structurally sound. Doesn't mean it won't break, because like I said, all swords break. But they're less prone to bending and breaking. Yeah, you could chip your edge out. That happens with every sword too. Even European swords. But out of all these blades, except for the Shobu, this is the strongest. Because the Shobu is just as strong as a Shinogi Zakuri. Like I said, it's basically a Shinogi Zakuri. It's just the ridgeline is changed. That's it. Same ridgeline. It's just positioned differently, so there's no drag. So 3 of these swords don't have a drag. This one does have a drag. But this is the strongest out of all of them. Now, as you know, this one does not have a bohei in it. I've seen on like Reddit and everything, people saying, "Oh, getting a bohei in it weakens the blade. It's more prone to breaking." And some people say no, it's not. I'm really not going to get into that debate, but if you can cut bamboo with one with a bohei multiple times and it don't bend or break, I'd say you're okay. Considering, now it depends on how big the bamboo is too, but I have cut bamboo with this Unikubi, and this is just a through hardened 1095 blade. That's it. It's not differentially hardened, it's just through hardened. That does make a difference too. But it's got a bohei, just like an Unikubi is supposed to have. And it was about 1.5 inches in diameter bamboo, and it went clean through it with no problem. So I would say, if you cut bamboo with an Unikubi that's made right, with a bohei, I would say if you had a Shinogi Zakuri, the bohei, you want to cut bamboo, you're not going to have any problems. If it does break, it's probably a bad cut. You know, your edge alignment's way, way, way off, because you want good edge alignment when you cut with the cut bamboo. But that's pretty much why we see the Shinogi Zakuri, though, in movies, anime, books, because they were made for such a long time. They're very rigid and strong blade design that you really can't beat it when it comes to Japanese swords. Don't have any European swords to kind of compare to it, because I just don't have any yet. But like I said, out of all the Japanese styles, that's the strongest. That's why we always see it. That's why when we watch movies, anybody who deals with swords or uses swords knows right away when they see it on screen, that's a Shinogi Zakuri. Now, it would be nice to actually see a movie incorporate these different styles. Blades like Unikubi, Motohara, or Kugurasu. That would be kind of neat to see. Even though on screen it's kind of hard to see them sometimes, but you know when you see a Shinogi Zakuri. I mean, it's just iconic. It's one of the most iconic Japanese swords in the world, so when you ask someone if they've seen katana, that's what they think of right there, is the Shinogi Zakuri. So, but they all cut differently. That's the nice thing about it. So, hope you guys find this informative and fun. We'll catch you on the next one.